What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Goat Show. Today, Blake and I will be doing our top 25 rankings. But let's get started. At number 25, I have the Minnesota Gophers. They are coming off a loss to the Fighting Illini. I feel like that's a good loss because how good Illinois is. But Blake, who do you have at 25?
Okay, at number 25, this is where I have the NC State Wolfpack ranked. They're coming off a very tough loss to Syracuse over the weekend, but I got them ranked number 25 as right now. Tate.
Blake, at number 24, this is where I have Tulane. Tulane is one of the best Group of 5 teams right now, and I feel like they could give Cincinnati a run for their money this year. Offensively, they look amazing. Blake, who do you have at 24?
Tate at number 24, this is where I have Kentucky. They had a bounce back week this weekend, and they're just trying to stay in the hunt in the SEC right now. Tate.
At number 23, this is where I have the most overrated team in college football. I have North Carolina. They're probably going to win their division in the ACC just because of how bad it is. But, I mean, if they're going to win it, you have to have them ranked. So, but Blake, could you have a 23?
Tate at number 23, I have still the underrated Purdue team. I think Purdue is an underrated team in the FBS still, and there's still a sneaking outside shot for them in the Big Ten chase still. Tate.
At number 22, I have another Group of 5 team. I have the Bearcats. They're probably still the favorite in the American, even though Tulane is a sleeper team. But Cincinnati just keeps getting the job done. Who do you have at 22, Blake?
Tate at number 22. This is where I have Maryland. Maryland had a big win over the weekend, and I think they're not done their season quite yet. And I see them improving each and every week. I got them number 22. Tate.
At number 21, Blake, this is where I have the Wildcats. Like you said, they're coming off a huge win this week. And I feel like, I'm not going to call it yet, but I feel like they can beat Georgia at home. I know that's kind of a hot take, but I do like what I am seeing from Kentucky this year. Blake, who do you have?
Tate at number 21. This is where I dropped the Penn State Nittany Lions. I think they've been an overhyped team all year. And I think Michigan showed it by how dominated they were against Penn State. But I got Penn State at number 21. Tate.
Moving into our top 20, this is where I have the Purdue Boilermakers. They're coming off a pretty nice win against Nebraska. And like Blake said, they're in a good race for the Big Ten West right now. They still do play Illinois, and if they win that, I'm pretty sure they jump them in the Big Ten. And Illinois still plays a team like Michigan, so Purdue is very well has a case to win the West. But Blake, who do you have?
Tate at number 20. This is where I have North Carolina ranked. They had a big win in the ACC over Duke over the weekend. It was 40-37, I think. But North Carolina looks pretty good right now. Sitting at number 20 for me right now. Tate.
And number 19, Blake, representing the Big 12, I have the Kansas State. They had a bye week, so there's not much to say, but I still like how Adrian Martinez is playing. Blake, who do you have at 19?
Tate at number 19. This is where I have Wake Forest. They had a bye week over the weekend. But I think 19 is a comfortable spot for them right now. Wake Forest at number 19 for me. Tate.
At 18, this is where I have the Longhorns. Last week, I was hyping them up, and then they almost lose to Iowa State. I can't rank Texas, bro. They're not top 10, but they're top 25. So I have them at 18. But Blake, who do you have?
Tate at number 18. This is where I have Cincinnati. They had a bye week, but since week 1 and their tough loss to Arkansas at Arkansas, they have been nothing but been on fire. But I got Cincinnati ranked at number 18 right now. Tate.
At 17, this is where I have the Fighting Illini. Ever since week 2, I've been saying that Chase Brown is a very, very good running back. And he was a very, very good running back this past week against Minnesota, and they got the job done. Illinois' defense is looking very good. Blake, who do you have at 17?
Tate at number 17. This is where I have the Utah Utes jumping back in my rankings. I did not have them ranked last week, but they proved me wrong with a nice comeback victory over USC. I got the Utah Utes at number 17. Tate.
Number 16, Blake, this is where I have Wake Forest. Their only loss is still Clemson, and it was a very, very close game. And Wake Forest, I mean, I was calling them overrated at the beginning of the season, but I think Wake Forest is the second best team in the ACC. I do think they're better than Syracuse. I think offensively they're a lot better. Defensively, it's close. But Blake, could you have at 16?
Tate at number 16. This is where I have Illinois. Illinois has now become the team to beat in the Big Ten West right now. I like that. We haven't seen that in forever, Tate. But I got Illinois at number 16.
Heading into our top 15, I'm going to start it off with the Penn State Nittany Lions. They just got dominated by Michigan, but Michigan's run game, even last year, proving into this year, has proven that they're the best running team in the nation. Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards had a heck of a day. Penn State, realistically, they had two, not lucky plays, but plays that won't happen more than twice in a game, like a pick six, and then Sean Clifford running it 60-some yards. That's not going to happen that many times in a game. But Blake, who do you have at 15?
Tate at number 15. This is where I had the Texas Longhorns ranked. They had a close, hard-fought battle against Iowa State over the weekend. I have Texas sitting at 15 because I just don't think they're top 10 material quite yet. But with Quinn Ewers getting back and getting adjusted in their offense each game in, game out every week, I think Texas will end up in my the top 10 by the end of the season. But right now, Tate, I got them at number 15.
Staying in the Big 12, Blake, this is where I have the Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State lost to TCU this past week, but I feel like they dominated the first three quarters against them. But TCU ended up dominating the fourth quarter, getting that comeback win and winning in overtime. Duggins played a heck of a game, and is very impressive. But Blake, who do you have at number 14?
Tate at number 14, this is where I have Kansas State ranked. I also had a bye week last week, but I'm keeping them right in my top 15 at number 14, Tate.
At number 13, this is where I have the Utah Utes. Their losses this season are at Florida and at UCLA. I picked Utah to win this past week, and I was correct. Utah is a very high offensive powered team when they need to be. It's just their defense that I worry about. But they have a very impressive win against the Trojans this past week, and I don't know how you can have them outside your top 15. But Blake, who do you have?
Tate at number 13, this is where I have the UFC Trojans ranked. They are coming off a 1-point loss to Utah. I think if they play 5 times, UFC wins 4 of them games. I think it was a fluke what happened last week, but I got UFC dropping to 13 right now. Tate.
At number 12, this is where I have the Syracuse Orange. They're currently undefeated, and they're coming off one against NC State. I mean, NC State didn't have the starting quarterback in, but Syracuse's run game is very nice. And this game against Clemson is going to be a very good one because Clemson's defense is allowing like 200 yards rushing per game, and that's all Syracuse does. So Syracuse versus Clemson is going to be a good one. But Blake, who do you have at 12?
Tate at number 12. This is where I dropped the Oklahoma State Cowboys. They had a very tough loss at TCU over the weekend, but I still think Oklahoma State is a very good team. I have them ranked at number 12, Tate.
At number 11, this is where I have the Oregon Ducks. Oregon's only loss was against Georgia week 1, but outside of that, Bo Nix has looked phenomenal. Oregon is they're going to win their division in the Pac-12, so they're going to be a very underrated sleeper pick to win the Pac-12 because they're going to go up against Utah, USC, or UCLA. But they go against UCLA this week. Oregon has won like the last 5 out of the 6 games, and they just look like a very good team right now. But Blake, who do you have at 11?
Tate, number 11. This is where I have Syracuse ranked at. Like you said, they had a very impressive home win against NC State. And they have another hard test this coming week against Clemson at Clemson. So we're going to find out what Syracuse is really made out of. But I got them ranked just outside my top 10, Tate, at number 11.
Now entering our top 10, this is where I have USC falling to number 10. I don't really fault them for losing because it was at Utah, and you could tell Utah was just ready for that game. It's like Ohio State playing at Kinnick Stadium a couple years back where Iowa got the win. I mean, playing at Utah is very tough, especially since it was a night game. Utah had to go. Utah had a lot of things go their way, and USC was still able to keep it close because they lost Jordan Addison in the third quarter when they were up by 2 touchdowns at the time. But losing Jordan Addison was a key factor on why they lost this game. But I have them falling to 10. So who do you have at 10, Blake?
Take at number 10. This is where I have the Ole Miss Rebels. They had a good win against Auburn over the weekend, and I think they're the best underrated team in the SEC right now. Underrated team, not the best team in the SEC, but best underrated team in the SEC right now. I have them ranked number 10. Tate.
Number 9, staying in the Pac-12, I have UCLA. UCLA is just playing phenomenal ball right now, and they are coming off a bye week, and they play Oregon this week, and this is where we're going to see how good UCLA is. I mean, Zach Charbonnet, I feel like he could have a big day against Oregon, but they're still at number 9 for me right now, undefeated. Blake, who do you have?
Take at number 9 for me, I have the Oregon Ducks in my top 10 for the first time since week 1. Oregon, they had a bye week, but they're getting all their pieces together, and they're looking strong in the Pac-12 right now. Tate.
Number 8, this is where I have TCU. TCU could easily be behind UCLA and USC because, I mean, they had a comeback win against Oklahoma State, but for the most part, Oklahoma State dominated that game. But due to them being able to get the win and pull it out, that's why I had them sitting at number 8. Blake, who do you have?
Tate at number 8. This is where I have the UCLA Bruins. They had a bye week over the weekend, but Chip Kelly's getting that team and putting all these pieces together. It's going to be very exciting to see he's going to win that Pac-12 at the end of the season. Tate.
At number 7, Blake, this is where I have the Ole Miss Rebels. Ole Miss is undefeated right now, and if they end up beating Alabama at home, they will win the division in the SEC because they don't really play anyone else except Alabama. They do have a tough competition this week against LSU, but if they're to win that, they're a very sleeper team to pick in the SEC. But Blake, who do you have?
Tate at number 7. This is where I have TCU ranked. TCU had a very good comeback win against Oklahoma State Cowboys, and they just put their name on the map to be the team to beat in the Big 12 now. Give me TCU at number 7, Tate.
At number 6, this is where I have Alabama dropping to. Now, a lot of people are going to say they deserve to drop to 8, 9, or 10. But in my opinion, if TCU, UCLA, USC, or Ole Miss played at Tennessee, the same outcome would happen. They'd all lose at Tennessee. So this is why I have Alabama only dropping to 6, because they're still top 6 team in my opinion. But Blake, who do you have?
I agree with you there, Tate. I have Alabama dropping to number 6. Any team ranked below them, I feel like they beat them on the neutral field fairly decent. But I got Alabama at number 6, Tate.
Now entering our top 5 teams. At number 5, this is where I have the Clemson Tigers. I just think the 4 teams I have ahead of them would beat them in a neutral site. I mean, I could even think Alabama could beat them. Clemson has a huge matchup this week against Syracuse, but I feel like their wins are kind of overrated. NC State's overrated. Florida State is now overrated. But that win against Wake Forest is keeping them in my top 5. Blake, who do you have?
Tate at number 5. I also have Clemson ranked at number 5. They had a solid win over Florida State. Wasn't too spectacular, but I think they're just the 5th ranked team, best team in the country right now. Tate.
At number 4, Blake, this is where I have the Buckeyes. They're coming off a bye week, but right now their best win is 5-2 Toledo in the MAC. I mean, they did play Notre Dame, but Notre Dame's just not good this year. And last week showed it because Notre Dame ended up losing again to Stanford. It's a very ugly game for Notre Dame, and Ohio State struggled against Notre Dame. Once Ohio State gets a key win, I feel like it can move them up, but the teams in front of them have better wins, and they have actually played competition, while Ohio State hasn't. They played Iowa this week, and that's not really a big competitive game unless it was at Iowa. But Blake, who do you have it for?
Number 4, this is where I rank the Tennessee Volunteers. Most people would think, man, Tennessee should be ranked 1 or 2. They beat Alabama. I agree. They should be ranked almost 1 and 2, but I have them ranked number 4 because I wanted to see how they deal with their hangover after a big win. But I got Tennessee at number 4 right now, Tate.
At number 3, this is where I have the Michigan Wolverines. Michigan is coming off a very, very dominant performance against Penn State. They won 41-17. The only way Penn State scored that game was off a pick six, off a tip pass, and then a 68-yard run, which put them in position to score. But Michigan's offense looks a little bit better than last year. I feel like JJ is an upgrade, and then the run game with Corman Edwards is absolutely nuts this year. But Michigan, they have a better win than Ohio State right now, so I have them ahead of them. But Blake, who do you have at 3?
At number 3, I also have the Michigan Wolverines ranked at number 3. They had an all-around dominant game against Penn State, and I'm looking forward to that big game at the end of the game. Either take the game, but I got Michigan ranked number 3. Tate.
And number 2, Blake, this is where I have Tennessee. Now, if Tennessee was ranked in the top 5 at the beginning of the year, they'd easily be my number 1 team right now. But since they weren't, I had them at number 2. Tennessee is just a very solid team all around, and I like what I've seen from them. They got the win against Alabama, and it was a very, very solid win. But Blake, who do you have at 2?
At number 2, this is where I had the Georgia Bulldogs ranked. They had a very good win against Vanderbilt. They blew them out. Georgia is back on track. I have them the second best team in the nation right now. Tate.
At number 1, Blake, this is where I have the Georgia Bulldogs. I feel like they still have the best and most complete win of all the teams with that 46-point win against Oregon. They have struggled against some bad teams like Missouri. Okay, a 17-point win is not really struggling, but I'm talking about the one against Kent State. But Georgia all around, I feel like they've looked like the most dominant and most complete team this year, so I still have them at number 1. Blake, who do you have?
At number 1, this is where I have the Ohio State Buckeyes. I think they're the team to beat in the Big Ten right now. Ohio State's offense is going to be tested this weekend as they play a very good defensive Iowa team. I think Ohio State's still going to be able to outscore Iowa, but Ohio State's going to show what their offense can do against a top 15 defense in the FBS. So I got the Ohio State Buckeyes ranked number 1. Tate.
That's it for the video. That's our top 25 rankings. Comment down below who you have in your top 5. But until then, peace out, Go Show.
Go show out.